There are certain men that aren't comfortable with using toys. Thank goodness I have a partner that is, because I just feel like it just takes you like to a different level.
Anybody who's worried about masturbating or grew up with messages that it's bad for you, from a mental health and a wellness standpoint, it is very good for you to masturbate. Couples on average are having sex a little less than once a week.
Okay.
So it's not as often as we're thinking, right?
Oh, and I'm good. Hola, mis amores. Happy Monday. We're now in the middle of July, which means we're wrapping up Cancer season. A special shout out to all my fellow Cancer babies. I hope your birthdays have been really special and unforgettable. Now, on to today's episode. It's going to be a spicy one. We're going to be talking about one of my favorite topics, sex. And we have a really incredible sexologist joining us to fill us in on everything from sexual wellness to sex toys. So stay tuned for that. This is Chiquis and Chill. Sitting with me right now is Rebecca Alavarez Story. She's a sexologist and co-founder and CEO of Bloomi, a company focused on women's sexual wellness. They have an amazing line of sex toys and non-toxic lubricants, which we'll talk about in a little bit. Welcome to the show, Rebecca. How are you?
Oh my gosh, I'm so good. I'm so excited we're finally doing this.
Yes, finally. I'm so excited. Thank you for being on. I have been excited to talk to you and to ask you so many questions. I'm very open, and I love that I have a fellow Latina that seems to be very, open about this conversation that I feel is very taboo. Still, I think, not as much as before, but definitely still taboo in like our culture. How or when do you remember the conversation, like the first conversation, or how you heard about sex, like either in school or from your family, or tell me a little bit about that?
The first time I remember learning about sex was definitely in school. And then they had this part where I think I must have been like in 6th grade or so. And they had a part where your parents got involved and they talked to you at home. And so my parents had this very awkward sex talk with me one of those days after school. And I remember it was funny because I was like, why are you guys so embarrassed? That was my takeaway. It wasn't even the information. The information was like, oh, wow, that's interesting. Yeah. But it wasn't like, to me, I wasn't actually shocked at like learning about the body. I thought the body was kind of cool when I was growing up. But I was just surprised at how uncomfortable even the teacher was. The teacher, I feel like, was slightly uncomfortable. My parents were uncomfortable. So I was like, what is this? That was my intro.
You went to a private school, right? Was it a Catholic private school?
Yeah.
Was it all of school, like high school or just elementary? Or
Yeah. I started off going to all my local schools. So like public school kid, that's how I grew up. The sex had started in like our local curriculum. But when I went to high school, I actually got a scholarship to go to a private school, which was an amazing school for getting you ready for college. But it was Catholic, all girls, conservative. And the abstinence-only education that we got, I was like, wait a minute, you guys took away all of the information I started learning about in middle school, and they had abstinence-only contracts, which I was like, oh, this is really like extreme. It was a lot of just like fear of getting pregnant, fear of STIs, don't have sex. Yeah. And that didn't feel right. It didn't feel like I was getting good information.
How old were you when this whole...
14, 15, 16.
Okay. Yeah. So that's crazy. The fact that you knew already, like, this doesn't feel right. I think this is just meant to be like your life. You know what I mean? To educate us all.
Yeah.
So how did you get into this space? How did you become so like interested in like sexual wellness?
So I would say those two questions that you asked, where it's like, how was it for me learning about sex ed as a kid? I was really interested by why people were uncomfortable with it. Like that was really interesting to me. And so in college, well, actually there was like a lot in there, but that stayed with me, right? Like, why is everybody like apprehensive about this? It made me apprehensive about it. And then what happened is in college, I actually went to a school my first year at UC San Diego. I unfortunately had a really bad experience. I was sexually assaulted, and that experience made me fear intimacy. It made me like completely turned off to anything. And so, here's now this kid essentially, right? You're 19 when you start college,
Yeah.
sometimes 18, who I feel like people were apprehensive. I was already like kind of not feeling like I wasn't getting good information. And then I have this ridiculous experience. So for me, I ended up transferring back home, which is how I ended up at Cal, which was the beginning of my healing journey. I took all the sexual wellness courses on campus, and I did it because I wanted to, like I was curious. And what ended up happening is over a course of the 4 years there, I feel like I healed myself. And don't get me wrong, I had great therapy. There was a whole like legal process at one point. Like there was just a lot that I endured. And in becoming educated and finally getting what I realized was like really, really great sex education, like really great sex education, to the point where I was taking the decals or like the field study classes where we would go to places. Like sometimes it was like parades or, events or sex museums, but sometimes it was like the sex club, and it was like an underground event. And it was really like I just had exposure to everything in the space for a while. And that started my healing journey. I knew that I wanted to do something with it, but it wasn't until later that I really was like confident in being a sexologist. I got my master's. At that time, I had become a single mom. I had a 3-year-old daughter, and I just like went all in. I said, you know what? I'm really good at getting the information out. I feel like a vessel. I feel like I sit at this intersection of I'm Latina, I'm a woman, I grew up with conservative information, like, but I feel like I relate to people, so people relate to me, and I was excited to get that
Yeah.
information out.
That is awesome. And what did your family think when you majored? And you know what I mean? Like, I'm just curious to see what did your parents or anyone around you?
So my parents have always known that I tend to not follow a lot of rules. Like I'm one of those people that I push boundaries, not in like a way where I'm trying to create a problem, in a way where I'm like, why? Why is that the line? Like, so I feel like they knew that I wasn't going to be like traditional. But then when I told them what the major I was creating at Cal, because I ended up creating that major, they were supportive. They were like, Mija, are you sure? And then once we got through I'm sure, they've been supportive. And like, I cannot tell you, they are the cutest parents ever
What a
now.
blessing.
We joke that my dad is like, our Bloomi Instagram, like influencer. And my mom loves, spreading the products and getting them tested with her friends. So times changed.
I freaking love it. I love it. Se acoplaron. They're like, well, fine. I'm going to support my daughter.
Like, let's go in.
Yeah. So tell us about Bloomi. You are in Target. That is awesome. I love Target. So I'm like, that is so cool. How long, when was it born? How did that idea come to you?
So after I made the decision I wanted to go deep into sex education and I became a sexologist, I started working with startups. And being in the Bay Area, there's so many here. This is like a startup mecca, right? So I got exposed to helping companies make intimacy products, but from a startup lens. And that stuck with me because so many of them got acquired. And that like experience, it taught me a lot. I felt like I did a lot wrong. I did a lot right. And I thought that if I started a company, I could make it way more intentional. Like I could make it more accessible. I could make it bilingual. I could make it, where people shop every day. And so that's what I ended up creating with Bloomi. We say it's a sexologist-led intimacy company, which just on its own, that's like a thing. There's not a lot of sexologists, and then there's not a lot that are creating the products, right?
Right.
And I'm just really proud to say we're in Target, but I have to tell you, like, the thing I'm the most proud of is just when I get customer testimonial or somebody who sends me a message and says, this product changed my life, this was my first orgasm, or hey, my partner and I love the lube, like that makes me so happy.
Oh, that's awesome. It's like that gratification of saying, wow, I created this, mission accomplished. Like I'm doing, I totally get it. And why the name? I love the name, by the way. I think the name is awesome. It's so clean and your aesthetic is so nice and pretty. Like, I love it.
Thank you. I appreciate that so much. People love our branding. I love our branding.
I love your
It's what
branding so
we
much.
wanted to do what you said. Bloomi, so my husband is in marketing. I love him to death. He's like the secret co-founder behind it all that doesn't get
Oh,
enough credit, but we did a naming session together. So he knows how to do this, but we did a naming session and we got to like everything on my list that I wanted for a name. I wanted it to be simple, a little playful, remind you of the body and remind you of like growing. So it's like a play on bloom kind of. And then there's a
yes.
lot of companies that have double O's that end up doing well. No.
Yeah.
So, and it kind of reminds
Yeah.
you of the body, double O's. So
Yes, it's
that was
true.
fun. If I could go back, I would say like the only thing I kind of wish is I wish I had a little bit of like a Spanish flair, but it's okay because people can still pronounce it. That was one thing I
Exactly.
wanted.
Yeah, no. I love it. It does make you feel like it just, I don't know, it makes me think of daisies and just sunshine. I don't know how to explain it. Like when I think of Bloomi, it's like, yeah, I'm blooming into who I really am meant to be
Oh, I love
sexually,
it.
For those who don't know, explain a little bit the difference between vulva and vagina.
So your vagina and everything that's vaginal is internally. So if you're born, a cis woman, basically you have a vagina, you have a uterus, that's the inside, right? So if you're talking about like penetrative sex or you're talking about anything like internal infection, it's vaginal, inside. Your vulva is the outside. Your vulva, it's like the lips. So like the inner lips, the minora, the majora lips, that's the outside. And it's like everything like where your clitoris is down to like before your anus, like all of this zone is like a vulva zone. And then one word that I think is also helpful is intimate skin. So if we're talking about intimate skin, we're talking about vulva skin or we're talking about penile skin, like either or. And Bloomi's products are for just intimacy or just intimate skin. So they're actually not even for just cis women. They're just for that part of the body, which is kind of nice too. We designed it to work for all bodies, but inside, vagina, outside, vulva.
And see, a lot of people, well, I sure didn't know, you guys. I would always talk about vagina, vagina, vagina. But when I learned that, I was like, oh my God, now I'm like, So thank you. Thank you for explaining that. And what I love, another thing that I love is that your products are non-toxic because I have a very sensitive flower. So I had to like, it was trial and error. Like, okay, this doesn't work for me. And, certain condoms would me rosaba. Like I would get like just very dry down there. It was just not cute. So that's what I love. I love that they're non-toxic. And I think it just helps that you are a sexologist and you know about this, which is what I love about your brand. So did you have a similar experience?
I did. I was going to say same. So I'm very sensitive, but what I learned in doing my research before launching the company is that Latina women, Latina cis women, and Black women, we have a different microbiome. That means that like, how we talk about like when your pH is off? Like when your pH is off, it means like you basically like threw off the number. The number normally sits around like a 4-ish, 4 to like 4.5. But if you use products like body washes or things that are very basic, you make it higher and you throw it off and you get irritated. So what happens for us is we're actually more sensitive. Latina and Black women, we're more sensitive to getting infections, getting STIs, all these things. So we need to be even more cautious. I learned this and then it connected the dots. This is why I'm always so irritated. This is why I can get BV so easily. This is why like I just like could get a lot of red skin. And it's because all these products that I honestly like just grew up with, like friends were using them or cousins, older sisters or whatever, they were using them. They have fragrance, they have parabens, they have glycerin, like all these things can disrupt that part of the microbiome, the skin. So I needed to make sure that our products were as healthy as possible. And I am really proud. I can tell you we are the cleanest line in Target for this area of the body, for sure, hands down. The one thing I will say though is even with that, everybody should always do a patch test. So like if you're going to use a new lubricant, anything that's going to be used internally or even on your intimate skin, you can do a patch test on your forearm or behind your knee and just put a little bit on there and see what it feels like for you.
Yeah, I need to do more of that, the patch testing, especially now that I'm getting more mature in age. I feel like my body is changing and it's like not as receptive, I guess, with certain things. But I do love the fact that everything is like non-toxic. I'm all about like, you know, the cleaner, the less ingredients, the better, you know what I mean? So, you know, you guys go to Target and get yourself some Bloomi, okay? So do you have any like favorite products from your line?
You know, what's funny? Like, I feel like I'm not supposed to have a favorite because I helped with all of them, right? But I'll tell you my favorites right now.
Okay.
So I think it has to do with summer and like this vibe. I'm really loving the oil-based lubricant. The oil-based lubricant is delicious. Technically it's edible, but we can't claim it, but I'm telling you it is.
Okay.
It is my moisturizer. It's my lubricant. It's my one product that I travel with. And my husband will like back me up on this. We have like one or two of them in the shower. We have one or two by the bed. Like it's just on rotate right now. So it's a good moisturizing, beautiful lube. Nice and like not too thick, but like very, very delicious. That's my favorite lube. And then I would say in terms of toys, I'm really loving Play, which is the newest one that we just launched. It's little. Okay. It's a mini vibrator, but it's curvy. It gives a little, you can insert it or just use it like nicely outside, like clitoral area, or if you need like, you know, like a little on your neck.
Yeah, on your neck, just to use it.
I travel with it. It's travel friendly. Ooh. Those are my two favorite ahorita. And I would just say like, there's new ones launching very soon. I think those might become my new favorite, but that's my jam right now.
I can't wait. Okay, so because I like the smaller ones, you know what I mean? And they're waterproof, right? So you could,
yes, they're
which
all
is
waterproof.
Awesome. Waterproof is the bomb, you guys, because, you know, you can, I mean, I don't know about you. There are certain men that aren't comfortable with using toys. Thank goodness I have a partner that is, because I just feel like it just takes you like to a different level. And what I like about the vibrator that you have, the ones that I've seen, is that they look like they're gonna move with your. I don't know how to explain it. Like they're just what's the word I'm looking for?
They're flexible.
There you go. That's the word. Like they look like they're just they're not stiff. It's like sometimes you can hurt yourself, and I feel like yours can go inside. Correct?
Yes.
Like not
they're
just,
all, you can use any of them in multiple ways. They're all multi-use. Okay. So here's the thing. I've tested thousands of toys, everyone. I know like personally what I like, but here's what I also enjoy. I have so much data behind this, like these studies and like Bloomi testers, which we call Bloomi beta. Anybody who wants to join can join for free. You get free product and perks. Oh, but cool. All of this information together showed me that, yes, sometimes having like a nice toy that's like rigid y no se mueve, it's good because sometimes you're craving that. But honestly, there's been a lot of like apprehensive users, like people who are like nervous to use it because it's really firm, or they don't want to try like a position where they might fall or it might hurt them. So what we did is we took that away and we just said, these toys have to be slightly flexible so that if you fall, if you try something, if you move, it doesn't hurt you.
Right.
So like Indulge, it's their double-sided vibrator. One side vibrates, one doesn't, which I love for people that are getting to know their body or maybe have some trauma and don't always need the vibration end. I would say like that toy it gives the most, and people really love that. It feels nice on your body. It just like conforms a little.
Yeah, there you go. It conforms. I'm like, I love that. Like even just the look, it looks classy. I don't know how to, I don't know if that's,
you.
You know, it really does. It doesn't look like todo feo and just veiny. It looks very nice and smooth. Like it's not going to hurt me. And that's like, I think especially like a lot of Latinas, a lot of my friends, I was the one that gave them their first vibrator. I'm like, I'm that friend that's going to say, here, don't sit on a stranger penis. Use this. You know what I mean? Like, and so they're like, some of my friends have used them. Some of my friends have been like, no, because it's like, no, it's a bad thing. You're not supposed to masturbate. You're not supposed to put anything foreign, quote unquote, in there. But I'm like, dude, I think it's so much safer than just boning a bunch of random people. Personally, that's my personal opinion.
It's definitely safer.
Yeah, it's definitely safer.
It's definitely safer, but emotionally safer, physically safer.
Yes.
But what I would say too is like anybody who's worried about masturbating or grew up with messages that it's bad for you, from a mental health and a wellness standpoint, it is very good for you to masturbate. It's more of like that construct society and like how we kind of like filter those messages that ends up changing how we feel about it. So if I can, I usually, when I work with people, I tell them like, try to let go and unlearn some of the stuff that you learned, because most people do not get good sex education. And from just a wellness standpoint, masturbating, it's going to make you de-stress. It's going to make you have skin to skin, which feels really good. If you have an orgasm, you get this like cocktail of hormones that makes you feel good, makes you happy. It makes depression symptoms lessen. So there's so many health benefits to just the masturbating daily or masturbating frequently.
Okay. Is there, what do you recommend? How often do you like recommend having an orgasm, either masturbating or having sex? Like, do you feel like it should be daily, every other day, or, you know, because I'm a huge believer in like anything excessive isn't necessarily good for you, but what about, you know, the vulva, the vagina?
So what's interesting to a lot of people is that I think there's a stereotype out there that if you're having sex, you have to have sex every day or multiple times a day, and that's a good sex life. But the average is like 2.5 times per month.
Stop, really?
Couples on average, are having sex like a little less than once a week, basically.
Okay.
So it's not as often as we're thinking, right?
Oh, and I'm good. Damn, I was worried, girl. I was like, oh my God. Okay, go ahead.
It's not as often. It's like that comes from like porn and like media and the TV. But like, don't get me wrong. If you're in a phase, right? Because we go through waves when we're with a partner in a new relationship, or even if it's the same partner at different times of the relationship, where you're going to crave more sex, and that's healthy. And, you know, like, but it's not as often as people think. And if I'm advocating for masturbation, National Orgasm Day is at the end of this month, and I'm trying to really push awareness around that. It's not just about the orgasm. It's so much more about like just getting in tune with your body and getting in the mood and all these things. But if you are practicing masturbation, it is fine to masturbate every day. It's also fine to masturbate once a week, or it's fine to masturbate at whatever feels good to you. Okay. What I will say is, it's kind of like, you know, when you exercise. If you exercise a few times a week, it keeps your cardio good, you feel good. But if you don't exercise like at all during the week, you don't feel as great. And if you're exercising every day, you can burn out. Just think of sex kind of in the same way. You're going to have these waves where like some kind of consistency is good. A couple times a week is good for you. Okay. But if you aren't feeling it that week, it's okay. And if you need more, then that's also great.
So just listen to your body, you know, because that sometimes I feel like that pressure of like, I need to have sex with my partner every single day, but I'm busy or I'm tired or I don't want it. You know what I mean? But like now that you're telling me this, I'm like, okay, then I don't, like I tell him, I'm like, my intimacy is, I want to lay on your chest. I want to watch a movie with you. And then sometimes I do want to have sex. It's just like, I also don't want it to be where like nos vamos a enfadar, you know, it's just so much. Or sometimes I just want to lay there and do my thing and I want to do it myself. You know what I mean? Like for so long I masturbated. I had vibrators. I didn't have a partner and I love it. I love that alone time. And that's okay. Like that's what I want to tell women. A lot of women feel so embarrassed where it's like, oh no, like I don't talk about those things. And it's okay if you don't want to talk about it. I totally respect it. But I feel like it's just so healthy, emotionally, physically, for you to just do it. And sometimes just do it on your own, do it in the shower, just have those few minutes to just release. I had a question in regards to people faking orgasms. I'm not going to lie. I have before. I have. Now that I've gotten older, now I'm like, it just didn't happen. Before it was like, okay, let me just be done with this. And I was like, okay, as long as that person gets their pleasure. Now I'm like, wait a second. Like I need to do my thing. Even if after he's finished, I'll go ahead and pleasure myself and he's fine with it and he watches. But I'm not into like faking anymore, but I have, like I said, do you know of a percentage of people that like do fake orgasms?
Yes. There's so many interesting stats. I would say like 75% of cis women have faked an orgasm. But like you and like me, usually a lot of this is happening when they're younger or they're just starting to have sexual partners. And they have ideas of like, I think you're supposed to do this, or I think I'm supposed to look this way and sound this way. But the older that you get and the more sexual confidence that builds, the more you kind of let go of some of that, or hopefully you do. The majority of people don't fake orgasms all the time, but almost everybody has at some point.
Yeah.
I think the stat is like maybe like 10% of people are faking orgasms. That's like an average. It could be like 8%. It changes every year. But what I would say to this is like, if you've done it, okay, maybe think about like why you did it and like what you were trying to accomplish. Was it you wanted to end your session? Girl, then just end the session, right?
Yeah.
Was it that you wanted your partner to feel like they were pleasing you? Then teach yourself what you want and then teach your partner how to please you. Like if you're in a healthy relationship, your partner should want to please you and you should allow your partner to please you, but there also shouldn't be your everything.
Yeah.
Right. So it's almost like when somebody is faking an orgasm, they're giving someone too much credit and it's not being honest with yourself or that relationship. Just let it go, start over. And you know, you can even start over in the same sexual relationship. You can say, hey, I want to like readjust some things. Like I'm curious about certain things. I want to teach you more about pleasing me. Are you open to that? The answer should be yes. Or like, yeah, what do you mean? And then you can go into whatever is on your heart. I feel like sometimes I'm thinking more about what you're doing versus just being in the moment. I want to be more in the moment, and it might be, you know, it might take longer for me to have an orgasm, or I might have to like show you different things or guide your hand in a different way, but I just want to be more myself around you. Is that okay?
Yeah. And right now that I was hearing you talk and explain that, what I think what happened with me and my personal story was that I was just young and I thought I was having an orgasm, but I didn't know what an orgasm was until I was older, where I was like, oh shit, wow, I had never felt this. You know what I mean? It's like, I didn't mean to fake it, but I faked it because I was like, I think this is what I'm supposed to do. I'm supposed to moan and I'm supposed to go, you know, and like, we're done, you know? So now that I know and I'm like, okay, like, you know, like Rebecca said, guys, like it's good and it's healthy. Like, hey, this feels good. I'd rather you know, sometimes like I don't like fingers in there. I really don't. Like I'd rather you use your mouth. I don't know. Like just have these open conversations, you guys. I think
open conversations.
Yes, with your partner and listen to him or to her. But anywho, now that we're on this topic, I want to know about squirting. Because I'm not sure. I feel like I have, but a question that a lot of people have asked is it pee that's coming out? But what is squirting? Explain to us, Rebecca, please.
It's such a hot topic. It like never goes away. Like this is like the constant hot topic. So squirting is when a cis woman ejaculates and it looks like a squirt. It looks like pee. So here's the thing. There's a lot of controversy about this. Like what is the liquid? Is somebody basically peeing? You get a lot of mixed results in research. Based on everything that I know, I feel like every cis woman who wants to learn to squirt can. And it does have some elements of urine because it's going through the same pathway. Like it's coming out of the same area. So it does have a little bit of urine, but it is not urine. It is like a clear, really glidey liquid that has a lot of proteins and fatty acids. And so it's like, it's made up of a lot of things, but it does have a little bit of urine in it. And it is what it is. It's almost like the equivalent of like prostate fluid in cis men. I know that might not be helpful, but squirting can happen when you are stimulating that part of the body. So I wish I could visually show people, but it's like maybe 1.5 to 2 inches in vaginally, you have your G-spot. And the way you know you're touching it is it's a little bit rigid. Like it feels, you'll feel smooth, and then you'll feel like almost like a walnut. And if you start to stimulate that and the body is fully aroused, you can ejaculate. What happens though is a lot of women that I've talked to, they won't fully complete the process and they're not sure if they're doing it because they tighten up, they get tense, and they don't let go at the very end. At the very end, you feel like you have to pee. And so you have to allow that sensation to pass and you have to allow yourself to let go. Y se sale.
Isas. So can I make myself squirt? Yeah, right? If I know where my G-spot, okay.
You can. And I will say this, like, because of where it is on our body, it's not as easy for us to turn our hand and do it, but we can do it. What's really helpful is a toy. So we have one, it's called Indulge. It has a G-spot side. So you can use that spot internally. And if you basically put pressure on that, we'll call it a little walnut. If you put pressure on the G-spot.
I'm going to go look for the walnut right now.
Yes. Sometimes people need pretty intense pressure on it. Other people need like medium pressure on it. But you can ejaculate with the toy a little bit easier.
Okay.
So when we're talking about sex, though, what's interesting is we have nerve endings all in that like bottom area, right? But when you're talking about penetrative sex, you can have penetrative sex vaginally in the vagina or in the anus.
Right.
A lot of women that have anal sex have orgasms.
So let's go back a little bit to anal sex because I haven't yet. I want to. I feel like I'm with the right partner to do so. I'm open to it. I've heard that it's like an amazing orgasm for a woman. And for a man, of course. We can definitely use your toys, right? In that area?
Yes. So here are my tips for anal. And I would say like the queer community is more well-versed in anal sex. And like, that's just a difference. A lot of people that are more heteronormative, like we tend to avoid anal more, but I think that it's something that we should unlearn and then relearn it because anal sex can be so pleasurable. And a lot of people really enjoy it. It's just the setup that's very important. So I would even say this, to be really honest, a lot of people I share with me, they're self-conscious about having like poop come out, right? They're self-conscious about it.
I'm not going to lie. That's my biggest fear.
So they'll change their diet. They change their diet for that day and maybe eat like more lean or more smoothies so that they don't feel like they have a lot of, I'll say congestion. But honestly, the more you do this, the more you'll know your own body and you won't feel as self-conscious about it. But in the beginning, people do tell me that's a worry. So I'm just validating that. A lot of people worry about that, but it's not a big deal. If some comes out, it's not a big deal, even though it might feel like it is. So what you can do is make sure you're using a lot of lubricant. So in this area of the body, we don't naturally lubricate it. Like we can't get like the wetness that we get from a vagina, right?
Yeah.
So a lot of water-based lube. You can use a toy. You just want to be careful that if you're using anything anally, you don't insert it vaginally afterwards.
Right. Yes,
or you wash it really, really, really good. We have a cleanser that's good for your skin or toys. But you can also put a condom on the toy and insert it that way. And that way there's even more glide. So you can do that and start really slow.
Okay. I love it. Honestly, thank you so much for being so open and you're so eloquent. And I'm just glad that we, thank goodness I have this space where I can just talk about it and people like you that are so educated in this and that have such an amazing brand, which again, congratulations to you and to your husband and to the entire team. And if you can please let us know where we can find Bloomi. Is there a website? What stores?
Yes. This was amazing. This was fun. I love the topics we covered. They were nice and juicy topics. You guys can find me anywhere. It's Rebecca Alavarez Story. That's my website and my socials. And then for the products for Bloomi, everything is at thebloomi.com or socials are at thebloomi.
Okay. And it's BLOOMI.
Yes.
Correct. Right. Yes. Just FYI,
sorry.
everyone.
And or at Target. I forgot.
At Target.
So you can also shop us at your local Target. You can just basically check your app. The one thing we've learned is if a product is not at your local store, sometimes it doesn't show up. So just know all of our toys are at Target. Our lubes are at Target. So if you're looking for one of those two things, I definitely encourage you to go to your local store and go to Target.com.
Yes. Well, I'm definitely going to go get some stuff. So thank you again. And you guys, thank you for listening. I hope that you guys enjoyed this episode. I definitely did. And before we go, you guys know that we have a quote. And the quote is, if you are powerfully embracing your physical body and your sexuality, you are living fully in your humanness, and that is as spiritual as it gets. Humanness. I like that. There you go. That's the quote for the day, you guys. Muchas gracias. Los quiero mucho. And until next time, Rebecca, thank you so much. I appreciate it again.
Thank you. This was great. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, guys. Besitos a todos. Do you need advice on love, relationships, health, y más? I'm so excited to share with you that my Chiquis and Chill podcast will have an extra episode drop each week. I'll be answering all your questions. Just leave me a voice message con todas tus preguntas y yo te las voy a contestar personalmente. All you have to do is go to speakpipe.com/Chiquis and Chill podcast and record your questions. I can't wait to hear from you. This is a production of iHeartRadio and the My Cultura Podcast Network. Follow us on Instagram at My Cultura Podcast and follow me, Chiquis, that's CHIQUIS. For more podcasts from iHeart, visit the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to your favorite podcast, and check us out on YouTube.